This is an interesting story uh, for all those who are interested in international affairs and who are keen observers of the economics at the macro level. So the story was reported by uh, American newspaper, namely the New York Times, and what it tells you is the importance of the pro people government and how change in government, change in the ruling class affects the entire economy. So let us look at this story. This story is about Venezuela, and it is about a crucial sector of the economy, namely mining. Uh, New York Times headline of the story, it reads that Venezuela has now opened up its mining sector to the foreign companies. And in order to open up that, the National Assembly, that is the parliament of Venezuela, has passed certain laws which would allow the modernization of the mining industry, and it would allow the private investment. So the key word is private investment or investment by the American companies. So that is what is now allowed, which was not allowed hence before. So now let us have a look at this story in detail. You are aware that Venezuela is a communist country or a socialist country, and this country ruling class or ruling party claims itself to be socialist. The key feature of socialism or communism is the key sectors of the economy, including mining. They are controlled by the central government, the ruling party, and this legislature, which this law which we are talking about, that is opening of the mining sector to the private investment, is in from that context unsocialist. Okay, but we should not have a very simplistic understanding of socialism and capitalism. We need to set or we need to discuss these issues in the overall context of the forces which are acting now. So we are all aware that Venezuela is now ruled by the acting president Delcy Rodriguez, who belongs to the same party as that of Hugo Chavez. You know that Maduro, who was the president, was arrested, and that is a very interesting story. Um he was, in fact, his presidential palace was attacked by the American forces, that is, an illegal operation. They picked him up and they imprisoned him and they took him to New York, and now he is in jail at New York. Maduro was replaced by Delcy Rodriguez, who interestingly belongs to the same party and who has condemned the decision of America to forcibly take their president away. But if you look now, if you look at the policies now, where she is pursuing exactly the policies which the American government wants. To be more exact, she is pursuing now the policies which President Donald Trump wants. So, for that, if you look at this particular story or this particular law about mining, uh, you must know that in the last month, the Secretary of U.S., Interior Secretary of United States of America, Bargum, he went to Venezuela, and along with him came dozens of American mining executives. So this is how the economy operates. We must not be naive in that it all happens just by the market forces, demand and supply. Uh, the American mining companies executives, they came and they had a meeting with the Venezuelan officers. Okay, so if you are calling it as a meeting, uh, it would be incorrect if we don't mention that it was simply a. If you simply say that it is a academic meeting, it is actually a meeting which was forced upon by the American government on the Venezuelan government because one condition and one tacit understanding between the Venezuelan government, present Venezuelan government, and the Donald Trump's government, Republican Party, is that they would allow the Americans to invest in Venezuela, which was not allowed by Maduro. So, as you see, the socialist controlled legislature now has passed this law of allowing the American companies into Venezuela unanimously. So this is interesting, unanimously. Okay, and this law would now go to this law would now go to the President Delcy Rodriguez, and I'm sure that she would also agree to that law. So that is because of Donald Trump and his power. Okay, now if we look further about the story, you'll understand that the entire stuff, okay, that is Venezuela opening its mining to outside companies, okay, has to be understood in a very interesting manner because, as I would show you now, just a minute. Okay, let me quickly to other mode. Okay, where I have the slides. Okay, so uh, as I was mentioning that the key reason why Venezuela's government or the reason why Maduro was displaced was because of the untapped mineral fortune uh, of Venezuela. Venezuela has the largest coal reserves. Not only that, it has got rare earths which are used heavily nowadays, and bauxite, iron, coal, copper, nickel. Okay. So, considering this, that these metals, the critical minerals, are very useful for modern technology, and the gold is obviously gold. So, Venezuela having such huge resource, and it is projected that because of this resource, the revenue by 2036 would go up by 8 billion US dollars. Okay, so that is the reason, that is the economic reason why you will see that there is so much US interest in Venezuela, and there is so much interest in displacing the government of Venezuela. Okay, so uh, as my slides show over here, that if you look at this alignment now of the present Venezuelan government with US, and if you look at the timeline, you'll see that in January, Maduro is captured by the US. In February, just after a month, Bargam, that is Interior Secretary of United States, brings mining executives to Caracas, that is the capital of Venezuela. and the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, then in March issues license for the U.S. companies to engage with the Minerva. Minerva is a region in the United States, in Venezuela. Uh, Minerva is a company, nationalized company of Venezuela into the mining sector. And then in April, you see that the mining law is passed unanimously. So if you look at this story in this historical way, you understand that it is not simply about the economics, it is a political economy. Okay. Uh, so now what this law is about, the key provisions of this law is about 30 years license is now given to the American companies, the mining companies, and any disputes involving the two companies or the companies and the government, it has to be resolved through Venezuelan courts, and then you see that there will be some regulatory bodies which would look into this mining, and there would be open markets. These are the key changes. So, as I was mentioning, that this is a break from the past, or this is a break from the socialist policies. The reason is in 2011, Hugo Chavez and his socialist government, it basically nationalized all these precious stones, including the gold industry, and it expropriated the US and Canadian companies. So, obviously, because the American interests and Canadian companies' interests were hurt, they were having huge stakes in removing the socialist government. The socialist government is still in place, but they, I guess, have surrendered. I was mentioning about the state-controlled mining company of that is the Venezuelan government's mining company, and that was Minervan. So the assets of this state mining company Minervan was frozen by the United States government, and that was because of the policy of nationalization of the government. So uh, this frozen and Minerval companies, or the sanctions against this Minerval company, has now been removed, and that is because of the Venezuelan government agreeing to open up the mining sector. So this happened in March 6th, on March 6th this year, obviously. Uh, the Venezuelan mining sector, uh, which was which was nationalized, there it is said that the control of the mineral resources is not entirely the control of the state government. There are some gangs, some private gangs which actually control these resources. Okay, there are certain armed groups, including the Colombia's National Liberation Army, and they control these regions, and uh, hence, in order to rein them and in order to make sure that these sectors are open up for the private investments, these armed groups need to be controlled. The other area of concern, or especially for the indigenous people, is that, and it is claimed that in this illegal mining operations, the indigenous peoples were subjected to forced labor. Okay, and then there was a lot of corruption because the Venezuelan officers were involved in this, and the illegal mining also resulted in deforestation. Now, why you would say that it is illegal? Because then there were legally mining was not allowed in Amazon rainforest, and so people, the vested interest there, they went for illegal mining. Right. The area where this mining operations are concentrated geographically, it is called as the Orinoco mining arc. Okay. So most of the Venezuela's deposits, it lies in this expansive jungle region. Okay, and because it lies in the expansive jungle region, okay, it's difficult to police, and that is the place where the private gangs will operate and not allow the free mining to these companies. So that was the concern of the mining companies, and they want this area now to be opened up. That they want the law and order to be established, law and order, in order to make sure that their companies, they can mine properly. In that sense, law and order. Okay. So so the concern is that for the American mining companies, the concern is that whether the law would be enforced, especially because of these gangs or the armed groups. Uh, the other concern, and this concern is a genuine concern from the environmental and human rights groups, they say that opening up this sector, mining sector, to the foreign companies, that would basically be a threat to the environment, because that would have the risks like deforestation. There would be abuses, especially for the Adivasis, the indigenous people over there, and there would be still the armed group control, and because of the opening up, there might be a tremendous environmental contamination. Okay, but on the positive side, they would say that uh, the illegality has been removed and now the sector has become more formalized, and because the mining sector is opened up and it would be more formalized, so that would create a lot of revenue to the Venezuelan government. As I said, mentioned, it was estimated that the revenue would go up to 8 billion US dollars by 2036. Okay, and then there would be economic diversification for Venezuela, which was totally dependent on oil. So this would be another stream of revenue for the Venezuelan government. So, can we say now that the Venezuelan government has totally withdrawn and has totally agreed to what Donald Trump has said? So, on that side, to speak on the behalf of socialist government, one could argue that the state still holds some key cards, like they can claim control over minerals, which could be deemed strategic to the national defense. So, not all the minerals, but few strategic minerals are still controlled by the state. By state, I mean government. And then the National Bank retains the preferential right to buy the domestically produced gold. So, this is another area where the government still has some control. And though the foreign companies are allowed to mine, even the state owned companies can mine minerals in this area. That is what is in this law. So it would be that some private state partnerships would be an essential, giving Venezuela a majority stake. So this is another area where one can say that the state still holds the key cards. This is one interesting case study as to how important it is to have a political control in business. So this is a gold reserve case study where this gold reserve permits were revoked by Hugo Chavez in 2008, and all these gold deposits and copper deposits of the foreign companies were seized without compensation. That was what Hugo Chavez could manage. Okay, so uh, there are opposition even from the technical people to this new law. They are especially the engineering class. They say that this legislation, which has been drafted, they have been drafted without their input or without their consultation. They are worried that this might lead to some exploitation, but they hope that the foreign investors would go and do a responsible mining, whatever that means. So now, once the law is in place, a key question which is being asked is whether now you'd find that the United States companies would invest in Venezuela. Okay, so uh, so as far as this news atom is concerned, and the news which has emerged from Venezuela, one can say that the law which has been passed by the legislature and which would be cleared by the Venezuelan president, acting Venezuelan president, would have would be a policy shift from the earlier policy of not allowing the private companies, the foreign companies, to operate in Venezuela, to allowing now the foreign companies to invest in Venezuela and tapping their mineral wealth. Okay, so this was a brief about the very important news, which is Venezuela opening up its mining sector to the outside companies, as published in a very important newspaper, the New York Times. I hope that this gives you a comprehensive understanding of how political power is important in governing the economics at a broader scale. Okay, so this is a lesson from politics, political science, as well as economics. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.